Felt like doing a ranking of one of the greatest of all time. Let's rank Led Zeppelin. Disclaimer that I will not be including Coda in this ranking because it's a compilation more than an album. Virtually a surprise to absolutely nobody, in last place is In Through the Outdoor. I don't think In Through the Outdoor is a bad album at all. I just think it is the weakest Led Zeppelin record, as the least standout tracks. And the sound of the album I love in certain areas, like In the Evening and Fool in the Rain, which is Fool in the Rain is one of my favourite Led Zeppelin songs. And then other parts of the album, it just kind of doesn't work for me. It's a very heavily synth oriented album, and keyboards and stuff like that, less so than previous Zeppelin releases, which are more heavily guitar driven. I think the record sounds really good and it has great production, and all the playing and stuff is decent. I just don't think it's a brilliant album for them to go out on, and it is a little bit more forgettable than other Zeppelin releases. Next up is Presence, and which is again a very good album, but in my opinion, it's got a similar problem to In Through the Outdoor, and that it isn't as memorable, or there isn't as many classic tracks and standouts as the earlier records. I do think Achilles' Last Stand is one of the absolute greatest Zeppelin songs of all time. Absolutely amazing track. It's the longest song they ever recorded. It's also got Nobody's Fault But Mine, which is also a bit of a favourite. I think it's a good album. It's got some really good moments on it, but overall it's a little bit more forgettable than, say, Led Zeppelin 2. And it was kind of made at a difficult part in the band's career, and you can kind of hear that through the music in a way. This will potentially get me into a little bit of trouble. Now, I should disclaim that I absolutely love this album, and I adore all the records coming up from this point onwards. Physical Graffiti is an absolutely fantastic rock record full of classic songs and a good variance of tracks. This is a double album. It's got some of the greatest guitar work from Jimmy Page. John Bonham's drumming's phenomenal. A lot of awesome bass and keyboard playing from Mr. John Paul Jones. And of course, Robert Plant is on top form throughout the entire record. Though, being a double album, there's a little bit of baggage, and a couple of the tracks are comprised of outtakes from previous album sessions. So the really amazing songs do kind of stand out from some of the weaker ones. Not that any of them are bad or anything. It is just, it's a double album, so there's tracks that are certainly better than others. I still absolutely love the record. Just, I mean, it is a fantastic album, but I do find myself skipping the odd song, which isn't the case for me on really any of these next records. I've always absolutely adored Led Zeppelin 1, and it is the first record I did listen to from the band, so, it's always going to hold a special place. The rawness and intensity of this album, I can only imagine how fresh that sounded back in 1969. Bonham's drums are so loud, the guitar playing is incredible and really kind of all over the place. Plant's vocals are powerful and brilliant, even so powerful to the point that they would even bleed onto other bits of tape, apparently, that the band were recording with, which is just pretty crazy. So, I mean, Zeppelin 1's a classic. It's Good Times, Bad Times, Days Confused, Communication Breakdown, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, and many more times. It's an awesome record. It isn't quite as refined and tightly produced as later releases, but it is a record I absolutely love, and it's an album I've listened to many countless times. It's an absolute classic, one of the greatest debut albums of all time. They had a massive job following up Led Zeppelin 4 with this one, and it's a record that is maybe even slightly underrated in my personal opinion. It's an absolutely amazing LP, filled with fantastic songwriting, awesome production, and it's even quite experimental for Zeppelin. They even though I think they were being experimental on 4 and 3, I think that they were further experimenting on this record with some kind of crazy tracks. I mean, the Rain song is absolutely gorgeous. Over the Hills and Far Away is amazing. Song Remains the Same is amazing. And of course, No Quarter with those amazing synth parts from John Paul Jones. This is a fantastic record. I absolutely love it. The Ocean is one of the coolest Zeppelin riffs as well. Very simple, but incredibly effective. Fantastic record. Led Zeppelin 2 was one of the all-time greatest rock and roll albums of all ever. I mean, it's pretty much not arguable. I mean, Whole Lot of Love, incredible riff, but I mean, for me, the later tracks on the album are where the real meat of the record is. Thank You onward, absolutely amazing. So many incredible classic riffs on this thing. It does maintain the rawness of the Led Zeppelin 1, but the songs do feel a little bit tighter in a way. Zeppelin 1, you almost, in the best way possible, you get the impression that a lot of the tracks were comprised of long jams, whereas Zeppelin 2, the songs do feel a bit more structured and refined, I guess, if you know what I mean. I don't know. But, it's one of the classic rock and roll albums of all time. I don't really know what more to say about it, to be honest. It's filled with amazing grooves and awesome guitar playing. It's an epic record. Ramble On, Heartbreaker, Whole Lot of Love, Moby Dick, and of course Bring It On Home. Just a fantastic LP. Absolutely brilliant. Led Zeppelin 3 is such a wonderful album. I mean, it's a huge leap from Led Zeppelin 2 in terms of the absolutely pristine production, the fantastic songs. There was a variance of the track list, the band are kind of venturing more into acoustic and folky music, especially on the second half of the album, which is, in my opinion, absolutely gorgeous. That's the Way is potentially my favourite Led Zeppelin song. Immigrant Song, absolute classic. Celebration Day, Since I've Been Loving You. The bluesy, rocky side of things are absolutely perfect, and the band are just playing magnificently. But I do really love that second half. I think Tangerine is a beautiful, beautiful song. This is an amazing record, and I think it really deserves to rank high amongst anybody's Led Zeppelin lists. It's an incredible record. I absolutely love Led Zeppelin 3. Though I'm going to have to give that number one spot to Led Zeppelin 4 in perhaps quite a predictable turn of events. Zeppelin 4 is the ultimate Led Zeppelin album. It's got everything that makes the band amazing. The entire record is iconic. I don't know what more can be said about such an epic album. Black Dog, one of the greatest openers to any rock record of all time. Rock and Roll is an amazing song. So much, the raw energy on that thing. The Battle of Evermore is absolutely gorgeous. Stairway to Heaven, one of the most popular songs of all time. Misty Mountain Hop, incredible. Going to California is a wonderful, wonderful track. It's again one of my absolute favourite Led Zeppelin songs. The entire record closes with When the Levee Breaks, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest songs ever recorded. It is such a perfectly defined rock album. It is potentially one of the greatest records of all time. It sounds amazing. It is prime Zeppelin and the band at their absolute peak in terms of songwriting and performing. It's a classic record. I don't know what more can be said about Led Zeppelin 4.